Chris Paul might fully unlock Wemby in 2025. Chris Paul has been an elite floor general for years, and he's known for making everyone around him better. Just think about what he did for guys like DeAndre Ayton and Blake Griffin. Now, he'll do the same for Wemby. Paul's basketball IQ is off the charts. He'll help Wemby get easy buckets with perfect passes. Wemby won't have to work as hard for his points with Paul running the show. Not only will Paul set him up offensively, but Wemby will also learn so much about positioning and reading the game. Chris Paul's mentorship could be the difference that takes Wemby from star to superstar. Plus, Paul's leadership is going to rub off on the whole Spurs squad. He's a proven winner and knows exactly what it takes to succeed in the playoffs. Wemby's growth is going to skyrocket with CP3 by his side. The Spurs might just have the perfect combo to shock the league. I mentioned Blake Griffin. Let's look at that for a second. Chris Paul's time with the Clippers was truly something special. He didn't just elevate his own game, he made Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan way more effective, especially when it came to getting them easy baskets. One of the biggest ways Paul helped was with his on-court impact. When Paul was on the floor, the Clippers were an astonishing 18.4 points per 100 possessions better compared to when he was off. That's insane. It's not just about defense or offense. Paul impacted the game on both ends of the floor. Paul's connection with DeAndre Jordan in particular was a game changer. Jordan scored 1.53 points per possession as the roll man in the pick and roll, easily the best among 44 players who had at least 100 possessions like that. Paul made it so easy for Jordan to score by consistently setting him up for lobs or easy finishes around the rim. Even when Jordan's not a shooter, Paul found ways to make him look unstoppable. Blake Griffin, same deal. Blake averaged 20.9 points, 8.9 rebounds, and 4.1 assists in 338 games with Paul by his side. The CP3 Blake pick and roll combo wasn't just good, it was borderline elite. Despite Griffin not being known as a shooter, Paul made their pick and roll plays super effective, producing over 1.14 points per possession across nearly 4,000 ball screens. That's not just good, it's efficient. When you look at what Chris Paul did for those guys, you can easily imagine how he'll help Wemby in San Antonio. Wemby has the raw talent and skill to dominate, but having someone like Paul to set him up with easy shots is going to take his game to another level. Chris Paul knows exactly how to get big men in the right spots to score effortlessly, and with Wemby's length and versatility, it's going to be even easier. Paul's leadership and experience also can't be overlooked. He's always matched up against the opponent's best players, and even then, his impact on both sides of the floor was incredible. Defensively, the Clippers allowed just 100.5 points per 100 possessions when Paul was on the floor, about the same as the league's best defense that year, the San Antonio Spurs. But take Paul off the floor, and the Clippers suddenly allowed 110.5 points per 100 possessions, more like the league's worst defense. That's a huge difference. Imagine Wemby learning how to position himself on defense from a veteran like Paul. Paul's attention to detail and ability to read the game will definitely help Wemby get better on defense, just like it did with DeAndre Jordan. Chris Paul knows how to command a defense and keep everyone locked in, and that's something Wemby will learn and benefit from as he grows into a dominant two-way player. Offensively, Wemby's going to have a field day. Paul is one of the best shooters off the dribble, with a ridiculous 53.7% effective field goal percentage on pull-up jumpers, which ranked second in the entire league for players with at least 200 attempts. That's going to open up a ton of space for Wemby to work, whether it's in pick and roll situations or just getting set up in the right spots. Paul will find a way to get Wemby easy looks. He's done it for Griffin, Jordan, Ayton, and now Wemby is next in line. Paul's impact on the Clippers' offense is undeniable. They scored 1.19 points per possession when Jordan set screens, the best mark among 47 players, who set at least 750 screens. That's mind-blowing. Now imagine Wemby getting those kinds of opportunities to score. With his unique skill set and athleticism, Wemby might even be more dangerous than Jordan was in those situations. Another thing that stands out is Paul's ability to bring the best out of big men, even those who aren't known for their shooting. Blake Griffin wasn't much of a shooter early in his career, yet Paul made their pick and roll combination incredibly efficient. Wemby, on the other hand, already has the tools to stretch the floor and hit jump shots so it's easy to see how Paul will help him become an even bigger threat offensively. Looking at how Paul elevated Griffin and Jordan's games, you can't help but be excited about what he'll do for Wemby. The pick and roll action between these two could be absolutely lethal, and Wemby's scoring numbers are likely to skyrocket with Paul at the helm. Just like Paul helped turn the Clippers into contenders, he's going to bring that same energy and leadership to San Antonio and help Wemby reach his full potential. There's no doubt that Chris Paul's presence is going to accelerate Wemby's development, both on offense and defense. Paul is a master at making everyone around him better, and Wemby is the perfect canvas for him to work with. By the way, if you guys enjoy these deep dives, I'll be posting videos every day during the season. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks. But anyways, CP3 and Wemby, let's look at the defense. Chris Paul and Wemby are going to be an absolutely terrifying duo on defense. Let's start with Chris Paul. Even though he's no longer in his prime, Paul is still one of the smartest defenders in the league. He might not have the blazing speed he once did, but that doesn't really matter when you've got the basketball IQ that Paul has. He's one of those rare players who compensates for any lack of physical speed with an incredible understanding of the game. His ability to read plays and predict the offense's next move is unmatched. Paul is like a chess grandmaster on the court, always a few steps ahead of everyone else. Now, the thing about Chris Paul is that he's a lot more physical than most people expect. He's not a big guy, but he's aggressive and isn't afraid to get in the face of his opponents. He plays defense like a cornerback in football, who's great at press coverage, always making contact and disrupting the offense. And it works. He once held opponents to shooting percentages that were 8.5% lower than the league average and a ridiculous 12.6% lower from beyond the arc. That's no small feat for someone of his stature. In fact, during his prime, Chris Paul was a defensive nightmare for opposing point guards. He held them to a player efficiency rating of 14.3, and his net PER was a crazy plus 11.5. 7 times he was named to the NBA All-Defensive First Team, and twice he made the second team. He's always been about more than just stats, though. It's his presence on the court that makes the difference. He disrupts plays before they even start, gets into passing lanes, and forces turnovers. He knows exactly when and where to pressure the ball handler. And that's where Wemby comes into play. Wemby is already a defensive monster. Let's just get that out there. At 7 feet 4 inches, with an incredible wingspan, Wemby's ability to block shots is unreal. What's wild is that he's the only center in the top 20 for steals. Those are the kinds of defensive numbers that we haven't really seen from someone his size since, well, ever. But it's not just about the blocks and steals. Wemby is transforming the Spurs' defense every time he steps onto the court. When Wemby's on the floor, the Spurs allow fewer than 115 points per 100 possessions, which is a pretty solid number. However, when Wemby's on the bench, the team gives up 124 points per 100 possessions. That's a massive difference. In fact, without Wemby, the Spurs turn into one of the worst defensive teams in the league. The impact he has defensively is staggering. Here's where things get really exciting. When you pair someone as smart as Chris Paul with a defensive powerhouse like Wemby, the result is going to be incredible. Paul's ability to read the offense and apply pressure on the perimeter is going to make life even easier for Wemby. Wemby won't have to worry about constantly rotating over to help his teammates, because Paul will already be putting the opposing guards in uncomfortable situations. Paul will force opponents into making bad decisions, and Wemby will be there to clean up the mess. And here's the thing, Wemby doesn't just block shots, he blocks shots without fouling. His foul rate is only 2.9%, which is ridiculously low for a rookie, especially one who's so active around the rim. To put that into perspective, his foul rate is comparable to guys like Rudy Gobert and Brook Lopez, both of whom are considered elite big man defenders. Rookie big men almost always struggle with foul trouble, but not Wemby. He's already figuring out the complexities of NBA-level defense and doing so at an elite level. What makes this combination even scarier is that Paul knows how to maximize the talents of the big men he plays with. Like I mentioned before, we've seen it before with DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin. Paul made those guys better defenders just by being on the floor with them. Jordan was an elite shot blocker, but his defensive impact was magnified by Paul's ability to funnel opposing players toward him. That's exactly what's going to happen with Wemby. Paul will use his experience and court awareness to push offensive players toward Wemby, who will be ready to swat shots or alter them at the rim. The Spurs recover 66% of Wemby's blocks, which is the highest mark among the league's top shot blockers. That means that not only is Wemby blocking shots, but he's doing it in a way that allows his team to regain possession. Think about that for a second. When Wemby blocks a shot, it's not just a highlight play, it's an opportunity for the Spurs to get the ball back and go on the attack. Add Chris Paul to that mix, and the Spurs are going to be forcing a ton of turnovers and turning defense into easy offense. Paul's ability to pressure the ball handler, combined with Wemby's shot-blocking presence, is going to be devastating for opposing teams. Opponents are already shooting just 52% at the rim when Wemby's on the floor, the same mark as Rudy Gobert. And according to advanced metrics, Wemby lowers the probability of an opponent's shot going in more than anyone in the league. With Paul hounding players on the perimeter and Wemby lurking in the paint, teams are going to struggle to score. To sum it up, Chris Paul's defensive smarts, paired with Wemby's size and shot-blocking ability, are going to make them one of the most formidable defensive duos in the league. Paul knows how to get the most out of big men, and with Wemby's unique skill set, they'll be a nightmare for any offense to deal with. But besides the defense, we need to look at the efficiency. Paul's experience and intelligence paired with Wemby's natural talent and size could make them one of the most efficient tandems in the NBA. First, let's talk about Chris Paul. This guy is a master at creating his own shot, but what really sets him apart is his incredible basketball IQ. Paul has never been a high-volume scorer across his career. He's only averaged more than 20 points per game in 2 seasons, back in 2008 and 2009. But his reputation as a floor general more than makes up for that. His ability to control the tempo, make the right pass, and keep the offense flowing is why he's so valuable. Now, here's where efficiency comes in. Chris Paul doesn't just take any shot, he takes the right shot. His true shooting percentage in Houston, when James Harden wasn't on the court, was an impressive 60% with a usage rate of 29% in 1,600 minutes. That's incredible efficiency, considering how much of the offense ran through him during those moments. And in Oklahoma City, Paul took things to another level. In the fourth quarter, when games were on the line, he ramped up his usage to 28% compared to just 21% in the first 3 quarters. The Thunder had the best fourth quarter net rating in the league that season, and a huge part of that success was because of Paul's ability to close out games. He thrives under pressure and consistently raises his usage and efficiency in the playoffs, maintaining the same true shooting percentage as in the regular season, even though he's facing tougher defenses and taking more shots. That's the definition of a clutch player. Now, imagine pairing that efficiency and decision-making with Wemby's insane potential. Wemby is already showing glimpses of greatness. For a rookie, his efficiency is something you don't see every day. Wemby's free throw accuracy is 81.3%, and within 3 feet of the basket, he's shooting 74.3%. Those numbers are jaw-dropping. And let's not forget, Wemby is a rim-protecting machine. He leads the league in total blocks, which means not only is he efficient on offense, but he's making sure opponents are having a tough time scoring on the other end. To give you some context, Wilt Chamberlain had the best player efficiency rating by a rookie with a 28.2 rating during the 1960 season. Guess where Wemby stands? 9th all-time with a 23.1 PER, higher than legends like Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan, and Kareem. That's right, Wemby's PER as a rookie is higher than some of the most dominant big men in NBA history. We're talking about a player who can impact the game on both ends of the floor. And when paired with someone as smart and efficient as Chris Paul, it's a recipe for success. Chris Paul is the ultimate facilitator. He's going to find Wemby in all the right spots, whether that's at the rim, on the perimeter, or rolling to the basket. Wemby's ability to finish near the basket at such a high rate will make Paul's job even easier. And because Paul doesn't make many mistakes, Wemby will get plenty of high-quality looks, maximizing his offensive potential. On the flip side, Wemby's defense is going to free up Paul to do what he does best. Paul's never been the fastest player, but he's smart, and that allows him to position himself well on defense. With Wemby behind him swatting shots and altering anything that comes near the rim, Paul can take more risks on defense, knowing he has an elite shot blocker backing him up. This dynamic will lead to more turnovers and fast break opportunities, which plays right into Paul's strengths as a floor general. He's going to push the tempo, find Wemby in transition, and they'll rack up easy buckets. Wemby's shot blocking isn't just about racking up stats. It fundamentally changes how opponents approach the game. He's in the 98th percentile when it comes to reducing opponent shots at the rim. And when players do manage to get a shot off near him, they're only converting 52% of the time. That's the same mark as Rudy Gobert, who's one of the best defenders in the league. With Wemby on the floor, opponents are forced to take lower percentage shots from the perimeter, and that's where Chris Paul's defense becomes even more valuable. Paul is going to have more opportunities to pick off passes, pressure shooters, and generate fast breaks. When you look at the numbers, the Spurs give up fewer than 115 points per 100 possessions when Wemby's on the floor. That's a solid defensive mark. Compare that to the disaster that happens when Wemby is off the court. The Spurs give up a whopping 124 points per 100 possessions without him. It's clear Wemby is already making a massive impact on defense. And with Paul directing traffic on the perimeter, this team's defense could be elite. So here's what makes them a great pair. Chris Paul's offensive efficiency and decision-making, combined with Wemby's finishing ability and defensive dominance, create a perfect balance. Paul is going to unlock Wemby's offensive potential, and Wemby's presence on defense will allow Paul to be even more aggressive. Efficiency isn't just about scoring. It's about controlling the game, limiting mistakes, and maximizing opportunities. Chris Paul and Wemby together will do just that. This is a duo that can dominate on both ends of the floor, and I can't wait to see how they gel over time. Whether it's Paul threading the needle on a pick and roll or Wemby swatting shots into the stands, this is going to be a combo that'll make opponents sweat every night. But although CP3 will help Wemby, it isn't just Wemby he's going to make better. It's the Spurs as a team. Now, some fans might remember Paul's last season with the Golden State Warriors as a bit of a down year. He didn't have the same impact he's known for, with lower assist numbers and his lowest scoring average since entering the league. But hold on, that's not the Chris Paul the Spurs need. The Spurs don't need the superstar version from his prime. They just need Chris Paul who played in Phoenix. I mean, remember when he teamed up with DeAndre Ayton? That version of Paul was a magician with the pick and roll, and that's what can happen again with Wemby. Think about it. When Paul was with the Suns, he had a knack for finding his center in the perfect spot to score. This is where the excitement builds. With Paul running the show, Wemby's going to see so many more scoring opportunities. The potential for lobs and pocket passes is simply tantalizing. Paul's ability to score will prevent defenses from focusing solely on Wemby. Last season, the Spurs had some solid players like Trey Jones and Jeremy Sohan, but they just didn't have the scoring threat needed to pull defenders away from Wemby. Teams would often dare Jones to take those mid-range shots. His shooting percentage from that area was solid, but he only attempted a handful of shots. So defenses could just key in on Wemby, limiting his effectiveness on pick and rolls. But with Paul, that dynamic changes. For over a decade, his mid-range jumper has been a nightmare for drop coverage defenses. Even though Paul had a down shooting year with the Warriors, he still got the potential to make teams pay if they ignore him. Let's not forget Paul's patience. He's a master of running the pick and roll. It's not just about the straightforward plays, it's also about the delayed pick and rolls. Imagine Wemby setting a screen, rolling to the basket, and instead of just trying to finish right away, he establishes position for a perfect pass. This is the kind of setup that creates easy scoring opportunities. In his days with the Suns, Paul consistently created those kinds of chances for Ayton, and the same can happen with Wemby. The threat of Paul's pull-up jumper forces defenders to stay honest. They can't just pack the paint or leave Paul open. If they do, it opens up all kinds of passing windows that were missing last season. When Wemby receives those passes, he can simply shoot over defenders. How unstoppable is that? Wemby won't have to fight for position as much. His height alone allows him to dominate down low. Picture this: Wemby receiving a perfect pass from Paul, going up for a short hook or jumper over defenders. It's going to be incredible. The only way to stop it would be to give Paul the shot, and he can still hit those. Defenses are going to have to pick their poison. It's also worth mentioning that Paul had a tough time showcasing his full skill set last season. He was in a different role and didn't have quality big men to work with. Now he gets to share the floor with Wemby, and I can't help but feel that Popovich's words to Paul, "Just be Chris Paul," will unlock his full potential. This partnership is going to bring out the best in both players. Paul's experience can guide Wemby, and together they can create a lethal combination. Wemby's versatility and skill set, paired with Paul's vision and leadership, that's a recipe for success. Just imagine the Spurs running their offense through Paul and Wemby. Teams are going to struggle to defend against them. Paul can orchestrate the entire offense. Whether it's making a timely pass or taking a shot himself, he'll keep defenses guessing. The creativity of the pick and roll will be enhanced with Wemby rolling to the basket. and defenders will have a tough time deciding who to guard. But it's not just about the individual skills of these two, it's about how they complement each other. Paul has always thrived when he has a talented big man to work with. Wemby is the perfect fit. He's going to attract so much attention from defenses that it'll open up opportunities for others too. Paul can find shooters like Devin Vassell with good spacing. Those players can get open looks thanks to the attention Wemby will draw. And let's not forget about the playoff experience Paul brings. He's been through the battles and understands what it takes to win. He can help elevate Wemby's game and guide him through the ups and downs of an NBA season. That kind of mentorship is invaluable for a young player like Wemby, who is destined for greatness. In conclusion, Chris Paul's addition to the Spurs is more than just a veteran presence. It's about unlocking Wemby's potential and helping the team find a new level of efficiency. Paul's scoring ability, playmaking skills, and leadership will make a huge difference. The excitement surrounding this duo is palpable, and I can't wait to see how they'll elevate each other's games. The Spurs are on the verge of something special. I mean, you gotta think how good Wemby was without a star point guard last year. The San Antonio Spurs might have had a rough year, finishing with a record of 22-60, but Wemby was a bright spot. In an otherwise dark season, his performances left fans buzzing with excitement about the future. And honestly, it's hard not to be thrilled by what he accomplished. He ended his rookie campaign as the first player in NBA history to surpass 1,500 points, 250 assists, and 250 blocks. That's a huge milestone. Only Hall of Famers like Kareem, Hakeem, and David Robinson can even compare, and they did it over their entire careers. Wemby's already stacking up numbers against some of the greatest to ever play the game. Wemby didn't just stop there. He became one of only 4 players ever to record 7 or more games with at least 20 points, 5 assists, and 5 blocks in a single season. That's some elite company. Just imagine the talent and versatility he brings to the court. He averaged 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 blocks, and he did it in under 30 minutes per game. How insane is that? When you think about the stats, it's clear that Wemby is on an all-time trajectory. He's already joined Tim Duncan as the only rookies to reach 1,400 points, 700 rebounds, 200 assists, and 200 blocks. He also became the first player to surpass 1,500 points, 250 blocks, and 100 three-pointers in a season. That's just absurd. But what's even more exciting is Wemby's mindset. He didn't seem surprised by any of his performances. In his end-of-year press conference, he said he didn't feel he exceeded his expectations. Can you believe that? He pushes himself to do more and more every day. Wemby thinks he hasn't done enough yet, and that's the mentality of a true superstar. He's always striving for greatness, and that's what makes him so special. Wemby's ability to dominate on both ends of the court is simply jaw-dropping. He's a game changer, a matchup nightmare for opponents. Defensively, he's a ferocious rim protector. He leads the league in total blocks, showcasing his incredible timing and awareness. Offensively, he's not just a scorer, he's a playmaker too. He can create his own shot, and he's a threat from the perimeter, making it tough for defenses to game plan against him. And let's talk about his versatility. Wemby can stretch the floor, attack the rim, and play elite defense. He's got the complete package. He can hit the three-pointer, finish with finesse around the rim, and his shot-blocking ability makes him a presence that opponents have to respect. When he's on the court, the energy changes. He brings a level of excitement that's hard to match. The potential two-man game between Wemby and a future point guard like Chris Paul is downright tantalizing. Imagine the lobs, the pick and rolls, the spacing. With a high IQ playmaker like Paul, Wemby would be able to thrive even more. Defenses would be forced to pick their poison. Guard Wemby in the post or let Paul take an open shot. It's a nightmare scenario for any opponent. What's even more thrilling is how quickly Wemby is adapting to the NBA game. He's already showing flashes of greatness, and he's only 20 years old. Just think about how much room he has to grow. He's learning the ins and outs of the league, and it won't be long before he's dominating night in and night out. San Antonio fans have every reason to be excited. Wemby's rookie season was just a glimpse of what's to come. The future is bright, and with every record he breaks, he's showing the world that he's destined for greatness. He's got the talent, the drive, and the mentality to take the Spurs back to their winning ways. While they might be sitting at home for the 5th straight postseason, the hope and excitement surrounding Wemby make it all worth it. He's not just a player, he's a phenomenon. Fans can't wait to see how he continues to develop, especially with the support of a talented cast around him in the years to come. The Spurs have the potential to rise back to the top, and Wemby will be leading the charge. Wemby's rookie season was nothing short of phenomenal, and it's just the beginning. He's laying the groundwork for a legacy that could rival the greats. The sky's the limit for this alien, and I can't wait to see how he evolves as a player. San Antonio has something truly special on their hands, and they're lucky to have him. The future's looking bright, and fans should buckle up for an exhilarating ride ahead. Overall, though, with CP3 on this team now, the Spurs are going to be so much better. With Wemby's incredible talent and Chris Paul's veteran experience, the Spurs are primed for an exciting season. Wemby's ability to dominate on both ends of the court will shine even brighter with Paul orchestrating the offense. Just imagine the alley-oops and perfectly timed passes that'll leave defenses scrambling. Plus, Paul's leadership will elevate the younger players, helping them reach their full potential. The combination of Wemby's skill set and Paul's basketball IQ is a recipe for success. They've got the tools to turn things around and make a serious playoff push. If you enjoyed this, I'll be posting every day during the season. I'd really genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.